Oh, here we go. All right, so we're going to have Mark Dowd come up. For those of you who don't know Mark, he's the founder of Forefront Communications. They do the public relations for STA. Highly recommend them. They've been a great partner with us, and we do appreciate it. We're going to have Mark come up, and they'll give the Dictum Meum Pactum Award. And then right after that, we'll have Dan Gallagher and Matt Andreessen speak after that. Okay? Mark, come on up. Thank you, buddy. Yep.
So when word got out that I'd be presenting Bryan with this award today, I got numerous texts saying that I just had to roast this SOB. All of them were from Melissa, but I'm not going to split hairs. But really, how could you roast this guy? I'd never let on that he almost skipped today's ceremony because Wednesdays are chest and legs day. Or note that he looks like Zach Wilson's older, less talented brother. Or maybe Kristaps Porzingis's shorter, less talented brother. I don't know. Or point out that Jimmy very well might be commenting on the state of his career by giving him a Lifetime Achievement Award in his mid-40s. No, Hark is legitimately one of the industry's good guys. He's smart and hardworking and respected by all. Ironically, he's also uncomfortable in the limelight, which is unfortunate since he seems to find himself on an awards stage every few weeks these days. Honestly, how many more awards are we going to give this guy? But in all seriousness, Bryan's used these many individual accolades as an opportunity to shine the light on larger communities and causes that are important. And in Bryan's case, that primary community and cause is Wall Street Rides Far. That's the annual cycling event that he and his wife Melissa founded after seeing firsthand the effect that autism had on their extended family. The event turns 10 next year, and to date, it's raised almost $5 million for the Autism Science Foundation, which is an organization that helps countless families affected by autism, in particular profound autism. My firm, Forefront Communication, has been involved in Wall Street Rides Far since almost the beginning. I've had a front row seat to witness how he and Melissa built it from a modest bike ride fundraiser in White Plains to become one of the trading industry's premier global charity events. Hundreds of our industry peers gather each fall across New York, Baltimore, Toronto, and for the first time next year, Chicago, to give both money and time, showing just how much respect and goodwill Bryan's built over the years. He's used the same tenacity he's displayed throughout his career at firms like Brute, NASDAQ, BATS, Cboe, and Trumid to create a movement that's brought together fierce rivals for an amazing cause. The Dictum Meum Pactum Award is the highest honor the STA bestows each year. It recognizes a single individual who's demonstrated a commitment to the betterment of our industry, exhibited the highest levels of integrity, and who embodies the STA motto, "My word is my bond." I can think of no one more deserving of this honor than Bryan Harkins, and so it is with great pleasure that I present to him the 2023 Dictum Meum Pactum Award.
Thank you. Take these. You're going to confuse me. Take these. All right. Thanks, Mark. All right, get my notes here. Jim, thanks, Mark, Aaron, Dawn. And I think you nailed it. This is the Thanks for Everything Award, and now take a hike. So appreciate that. In all seriousness, it's a tremendous honor and humbling honor to be with you accepting this award in front of you today. I will say when Jim first reached out, as Mark pointed out, I thought it was, of course, a great honor and nice surprise, but I had mixed emotions about the attention. But then, as I thought more about it, me standing here today, I think just represents all of you, this amazing community, and what we can all accomplish together, which we'll get into. So after I agreed and then STA put out the news on LinkedIn and on Twitter, I remember the exact moment, actually. I was online buying my son a Yankees hat. He likes every type of style, pink hat, green hat, army hat. And over the next few days, after the news was out online, all the ads following me around the internet changed from Yankees hats to AARP. I'm like, damn it, got me again, Jim. So anyway, after I got over that, I started to think about what do I want to say today? And everything I love about my career and this industry owes to the great relationships that we've built together. So I reached out to a cross-section of people to ask the simple question, what do you like best about our industry? It was a free-form question, and really can answer it any way they chose. So I'd like to just share a couple of phrases and nuggets that stood out to me in all the responses. So from Joe McCain, you can experience the virtuous cycle of coworkers becoming clients, becoming competitors, becoming vendors, and even becoming regulators. And those relationships with those folks strengthening throughout that evolution. Actually reminds me of Brett Redfern. I don't know if he's here. So he was a client at JP Morgan. He was on the board of BATS, goes to the SEC, becomes an anti-exchange crusader, and now we're good again. So, from Tony Burrell, our jobs take us away from our families and in a funny way, give us back another family to compensate. It's not necessarily what we do, but truly who we do it with. And lastly, from Dan Weingarten, I remember the first time we met in the mid-2000s in Omaha, Nebraska. Competitors for order flow, of course, but respectful of what we're trying to accomplish. We realized then that there were things to do together and thus started a 20-year friendship, sharing creative ideas, and done much business together since. So as I reflect on some of these themes, which are all throughout, it just jumps out at me that people still matter most. So friendships are built on one-on-one personal and in-depth relationships. They are unique shared experiences together. They're not about business meetings with agendas or as a result of scanning the room at a conference, thinking about who to speak to next, or how many likes you get on a social media platform. Look, I can be guilty of that. Scanning the room or using social, look, you always have to have a strategy in our business, and you have to have a plan. But I think as I reflect, my best relationships and experiences are grounded in unique experiences shared amongst people. So let me share some examples. When Erica Antonito and I first met in the US Open back together in 2005, she was at Radiance, I was at NASDAQ, we witnessed an epic tennis match between James Blake and Andre Agassi. It lasted well into the night. I don't even recall drinking or eating anything that night. We were just captivated by this match that went well past midnight. And we've been friends since. Shows you how old we are, too. But also, I'm glad at least it wasn't John McEnroe versus Jimmy Connors. Another memory, I'm going to surprise this guy, is with Mike Downey. Is he in the room? Okay, well, good thing. So one time when we were hanging out at the St. Louis STA, probably after the Cardinals game, and we're walking home, probably to the hotel, and we saw this grassy hill, probably like a 30 to 40 degree angle, and we just had to roll down it. So we just jump on each other, and we're rolling so fast through the momentum and the gravity that we're like rolling over each other, and just like we're absolutely belly laughing in stitches. Good old-fashioned silliness. Mike and I don't keep up as much anymore, but like it's that kind of stuff and nonsense that immediately reconnects you with people. And then there was a night 10 years ago at a Mexican restaurant in Chicago with Joe Dressler, one of the best in the business who unfortunately we lost too soon a few years ago. We challenged him after dinner to take down 4 plates of flan. So, look, I don't know if you've ever seen flan. I mean, it's pretty good, but 4 plates. So as Joe, he's like hysterical laughing. He's like slinking in his chair, like just trying to struggle to get through it. And he got through it. And, it's something that you always remember. And here's my best one. Try to keep it clean. But about 13 to 14 years ago in New York City, Gansevoort, Ward, kind of meatpacking district, I'm hanging out with Mike Strasnoff, Steve Sadoff, old night guys. And we're at a rooftop party, a rooftop bar, and it's this beautiful crystal pool. And it just looked very inviting. And so I'm in business casual stuff, drinks are flowing. I say, Straz, how about $700 for me to do 2 laps back and forth? He's like, no way, ha. So yes, jump in, Sadoff, let's just say he stripped down a little more than me. We do 2 laps, get out of the pool, huge bouncer's like, gotta go, bro. But look, on the way home, taking a cab, now I needed to explain to Melissa what happened. So I said to the cab driver, hold on a second, there's a cash machine right there. Mike, Straz, get my effing money right now. And so he's laughing hysterically as he's typing in his PIN to give me my $700. So look, there's so many stories, truly an amazing community of people to share these stories with, and this sometimes nonsense. And it brings me to like this community's potential is why Melissa and I started Wall Street Rides Far. As Mark mentioned, we're passionate about autism research. Autism is highly genetic. At its best, it's inspirational, especially when you see parents committed and bring a whatever it takes attitude to improving the lives of their child. But at its worst, autism can be completely devastating, where normal day-to-day activities are just simply not possible for parents. So it was this inspiration, really, of seeing parents firsthand dealing with it that Melissa and I started to get involved. And so let me share a quick story. I think I have time. And this is from Jackie Harkins, my sister-in-law, mother of Kyle, my nephew. So this is a story, kind of just like a little tidbit of what an autism parent often has to go to. When Kyle was about 7, I wanted to take him to Florida, where I would meet up with my husband and oldest son. Although he had flown before, I had never done this alone. You have to be prepared that anything can happen, and the worst was about to occur. I thought it would be a good idea to bring Kyle's car seat so that it would be familiar and that he'd feel comfortable getting buckled in. It was quite large, and as he was getting big, it took several flight attendants to try to get it to fit in the seat. While this was happening, I could see Kyle getting increasingly anxious, and my stress began to rise. Ultimately, the seat would not fit, and we ended up having to check it. With that, Kyle began to cry and scream and became very aggressive. He scratched my face, and I could feel the blood trickling down my cheeks. While others offered to help, I knew there was nothing that anyone could do in this moment. He was flailing and screaming and would not allow me to buckle him in the seat. His screaming intensified, and as everyone stood and watched, my level of stress increased enormously. When I was finally able to buckle him in, he continued to scream and cry all throughout the flight. At this point, my packing of treats and sensory toys were useless to me, as I needed all hands on deck to make sure that he didn't lunge at me again or at anyone else. His screaming never subsided, and the thought of this continuing throughout the flight made me realize how powerless I was over the situation, and reminded me of how incredibly complex simple things become with autism. At this point, I wanted to cry myself when the flight attendant asked if it was okay for a mom of a child with autism could come to sit up with me and help. The next thing I knew, Sarah, who I have now since named the angel in the skies, came up and knelt in front of me and in front of Kyle, and did everything in her power to calm him down. She had the magic touch. She spoke softly to him and showed him how to play with Play-Doh, as she was the mom who sent that to me earlier. She worked her magic and even told me to go sit with her son and husband in the back. When we finally landed and Kyle was somewhat calm, I was so grateful to Sarah. While others on the plane just stared in horror, she knew exactly how to help. She understood that every outing, function, and event for parents of autism are filled with the stress of the unknown and knowing that a simple event can lead to the most difficult of times. Her knowledge and patience meant more to me than I ever could have imagined. I haven't flown with Kyle since, and as he's gotten older, trips have become even more difficult. My husband and I often have to decide who will attend functions alone, as the other is always at home with Kyle. Holidays, weddings, parties, and trips are never what they once were. So that's the story of my sister-in-law, Jackie, John, and their son, Kyle. So look, when we thought of how we were going to put our efforts behind autism, while the logistics were unclear, the approach was very simple. It was to lean into the greatness, the kindness, the generosity, and motivation of the human. It was the easiest of all bets. It was betting on the greatness of this community, and it was betting on all of you. So let me share a few nuggets of the power of the ride and of this network. I think Mark mentioned a bit already. Rides Far has had about 4,000 participants, 115 corporate sponsors. Now think about that number for a second. Hosted annual rides in New York, Baltimore, and Toronto, and as Mark mentioned, $5 million raised for scientific research. And this money is really making an impact. We have Allison Singer, the president of the Autism Science Foundation, whose team is doing great work. The ride is funding research in Canada. We have a Baltimore ride that is now funding projects at Johns Hopkins in Maryland. And we still feel like we're just getting started. Everything is funded from genetic research to the use of technology to improve early detection to gender-specific studies. While these numbers and projects are cool, again, I think we're still getting started. Even though this is an industry driven by spreadsheets, the bottom line, algos, bots, this is really the story and growth of the ride is simply one of human effort. It's because of inspirational people like the Rides Far Advisory Board, who give their time and efforts year-round to make this happen. People like Brad Vopney, Dave Laval, Chris Marino, Rob Salmon, Jen Fagenson, Mark Dowd, Josh Schmidt, and Mark Wyatt. Truly impressive group. And the story of Rides Far is a story of community. It's because of all of you. So in closing, while I'm here, I'm like, who am I to give advice? As I think about, my career, some closing thoughts for you. Don't take yourself too seriously. Don't be afraid to have fun and be a knucklehead sometimes. So look, as we get older, we lose sight of what a good belly laugh with friends does. Keep it light at work. I remember one time, right after Bats went public, we're doing one of our first earnings calls, and I have my prepared remarks doing the conference call, and everybody's nervous. Ken Cannon, he gets right behind me as I'm reading the script, giving the business update, and he gives a selfie, middle finger selfie right there as I'm reading the script. So perfect way to keep it light in the perfect moment. And lastly, but most importantly, always bet on the potential of your fellow human. So thank you so much, everyone.